Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final webinar of this year's Research Communication Week at Ca' Foscari. We're glad to have you join us today to present and discuss the EUTOPIA Citizen Science Starter Kit with one of its authors, researcher Floor Keersmakers from the Vrije University of Brussels. So let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Francesca, and I'm a communications officer at Ca' Foscari University of Venice. For around the last 2 years, I've also been involved in the activities of EUTOPIA, which, as some of you might already know, is an alliance of 10 European universities that share a common vision for the future of higher education. EUTOPIA's mission is to connect our campus communities and to transform our universities into open, inclusive, diverse, and innovative hubs that can positively impact society. The Citizen Science Starter Kit we are about to present today was developed as a deliverable within the EUTOPIA Train project, which was sort of the pilot phase of the Alliance. These training materials, created by Floor and Karina Weckman, provide information to researchers who are new to citizen science and are considering initiating a citizen science project, regardless of their field. If you have any questions or comments at any point during this presentation, you can send them in using the Q&A tool, and we'll go over them at the end. Once again, thank you for joining us today, and I will now hand it over to Floor for this crash course on citizen science. Thank you, Floor.
Thank you, Francesca. Welcome, all of you. I have prepared, as one does, a little presentation to help my talk along, which I hope you can see right now. Let me know in the chat if you don't, but I guess we're all right and good to go. So yes, we're going to talk about the Citizen Science Starter Kit today. As Francesca said, my name is Floor and I work at one of the EUTOPIA partner universities in Brussels. Just to give you a bit of an overview about what I'd like to do today, is to start with a short introduction and then talk to you a bit more about how this starter kit came to be. And then I will talk about how we built the starter kit and a bit also about the process, because it went in two phases. We made a first version in 2022, and then we decided to elaborate on it and broaden it with a fourth module in 2023. Of course, then we will have the Q&A, and I've also foreseen a little outro to send you all home, hopefully happily and fulfilled. Just to start, of course, you will receive the Zenodo link to the Citizen Science Starter Kit. I will try to post it in the chat later on, once I've had a bit of spare time, maybe. And it currently has, the first version currently has 1,335 downloads, and the second version is at 1,156. And of course, we're proud of it. This is in the largest part, thanks to Karina, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. She apologizes, and thanks you all for being here. Karina is actually the main author of the starter kit. We worked on it together. We talked about, we discussed the content together. I delivered input, of course, but Karina is really the main author and deserves all credit. And as you can see in her profile that I'm showing here, she's really our citizen science expert at our university from a researcher's point of perspective. So she's part of the research group SMIT, and there she's part of the Digital Inclusion and Citizen Engagement Unit, but she's also a steering member of the Flemish Knowledge Center on Citizen Science, CIVIL. She's in our advisory board. And she's engaged as the academic coordinator in Open Lab, which is our overarching support cell for participatory research that we have together with the French-speaking University of Brussels, the ULB. Then to go over to myself, I have been a researcher in a far past, but now I'm working as a supportive staff in the administration, more specifically in the Vice Rectorate of Research of our university. And I am coordinating our citizen science contact point that is part of the Outreach and Communication Office, the Science Outreach and Communication Office. Previously, I've been working in our science shop, amongst others. So if you have questions about that linked to the citizen science, we can talk about that too. But now I would like, if you don't mind, to know who's here and who I have in front of me, although I cannot see you. So if you don't mind, we can, let's see, how do I do this? I hope you now are taking the time to go to WooClap. I will also share in the chat the link that you can use to go there, and I will switch the screen that I'm sharing. So let's go with that. Sorry, it took me some time, but that's the link you can use, or you can just go to WooClap and fill in the code. So I'm going to switch the screen that I'm currently sharing to this one, which I hope you can see now. Yes. I hope you can also see the results. Please let me know again if that isn't the case. But I'm very happy to see that I have some people who are already at least enthusiastic about citizen science and maybe have been reading about it earlier, or have been looking up about it earlier. So that's great. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to go on to the next question. And this is, I don't know who I have in front of me, as I said, but I guess you're either professionals or researchers, or maybe just interested people from NGOs, local governments, I don't know, but I just like to know who has experience with citizen science as a participant. That's interesting. We do have some people here who've engaged in this. Okay, these are very nice numbers. Bit of 50-50. So this question is about whether you've engaged as a participant, so not being a member of a citizen science project team. But my last question is about that. Have you been in your professional life, either you work as a researcher or supporting staff like myself, or you're working at an NGO or local government or in industry? Please let me know what your experience is as a professional with citizen science. Okay, that's great. Yeah, thank you. That's good. Okay, so the ones who have already been professionally engaged in citizen science, don't be too critical of me. The Citizen Starter Kit is a starter kit. It's for beginners, but I do hope and I do think that maybe you can take away something as well. So let's go back to our presentation then. Thank you very much for engaging in this little exercise. Yes, there we are. I'm sorry, I have only two screens, so sharing is sometimes a bit complicated. There we go. And let's continue. Because you're all here to talk about the Citizen Science Starter Kit, of course. So how it came to be, as Francesca already told us, the first version of the Starter Kit was delivered or developed rather as a deliverable in the EUTOPIA Train project. But maybe it might interest you that we have been engaged in other citizen science activities and outputs in this project as well. You can find a nice summary of our citizen science clinics online. You see an image there. You can also find 2 webinars that we did with Unica on YouTube. And also our dissemination event is also there. And within the EUTOPIA Alliance, we now have set up a citizen science education and support service coordinated from the VUB, so from us, but it's engaging all our colleagues from all our universities. But I do want to tell you as well that at the same time, actually, that we were engaged in EUTOPIA Train at our university, we were setting up the citizen science contact point. So if anyone from the VUB is here and has never heard from us before, as I said, we're part of the outreach and communication team in the research department. But our goal is to support researchers in citizen science. And we just thought, like, let's start with trying to put all information that we think is useful in one guide, in one starter kit. And Karina went on to do some desk research and to really map everything that was already out there, because as you probably all know, there's plenty of resources out there already, and very good ones. But we tried to fill in maybe a gap of what was, or how we could be complementary, let's say, to what already out there. We also did a survey with our EUTOPIA researchers on their needs and interests. And then to further build the content of our starter kit, we had a focus group with different citizen science experts in Europe. It might also interest you to know that we will turn this starter kit, which is now a PDF, into an e-learning environment as well. So now it's a PDF and you can print it, and in that way it's already hopefully easy to work with, but we're really turning it into an environment where you can start learning in an interactive way online and digest the content in an interactive way. So we'll keep you informed about that. Stay tuned. So in the first stage, we only developed the first 3 modules. This was the first version of the Citizen Science Starter Kit, and you can also find this on Zenodo. But it is only a Microsoft Word document, and it didn't have the layout yet that the second version has. And this first version, or this first part rather, of our Citizen Science Starter Kit consists of 3 modules that you see listed there. And first, we want to introduce the concept of citizen science, make our readers familiar with current definitions, with why people engage in it or research in it, and what is out there in citizen science already. And then, as the starter kit is mainly, but not exclusively, developed with the audience of our research community in mind, we wanted to help our researchers to determine whether citizen science is the right approach for their research. So really think about what they want to achieve, what they can achieve, what sources are available, and so forth and so forth. And once they're convinced and confirmed and supported and encouraged that citizen science is a way to go, we thought we would put some crucial design factors for successful citizen science in the spotlight. So that's how we thought, like, let's start with this. This is the content of a starter kit. So as I said, the first module reflects on the different terms and characteristics that are used to describe citizen science. The benefits are listed, and the diversity of the field is illustrated with case studies in all scientific branches and disciplines. So the first chapter in this module is about what is citizen science. And we introduce a brief history, and then we hopefully do not encourage people from the start, but we do point out that generally it is accepted and assumed that there's no single exhaustive definition of citizen science. There's not a set of really specific quality criteria, but what is out there is a very useful framework developed by the European Citizen Science Association, the 10 principles of citizen science that are used and spread very widely. And additionally, there are also the characteristics of citizen science. I cannot go deeper into them now, but please know that they're out there and very useful resources. And then the second part of this little chapter about what is citizen science is that we want to stress that it's important to, as you see there, to think carefully about the terminology that you use. some terms as hobbyists, human sensors, the contradiction between professional scientists and non-professional scientists might be sensitive. And we advise to explain the choice of wording to your target audience and discuss it together. So to go into the way that we lay it out, I'm not sure, the way we shaped our starter kit visually, graphically. Throughout the starter kit, you will see that we consequently have a way to indicate a little chapter, but also you will find these 4 colored boxes again and again and again throughout the starter kit. So we deliver the content as a text, but we always have additional reading tips, additional resources in a little separate box, which you can recognize by this typical light blue triangle shape. And then we also hope to start reflection and discussion by adding a few questions in the time to reflect boxes. And what you also should know is that our starter kit is full of case studies that are in yellow boxes. And we always try to choose the ones that are relevant for the content that we're discussing. And at the end of every chapter, we foresee a summary for people who do not really have time to go through the entire text in the blue box. So just so you know. Then as a second chapter in the first module, we discuss the benefits of citizen science, which might be particularly interesting to the people here who indicated that they're relatively new to citizen science or just interested to learn more. In this chapter, we try to list the reasons why you should commit to citizen science, or what are the advantages for research, but also for society, for on a larger level, on an individual level, and so forth. So if you want, we can dive into that deeper, maybe in the Q&A session. And also, I wanted to add that there are good Q&As out there as well on these EXA websites and so forth, which I'm going to put something about in the chat for you right now. So if you have these big main questions about citizen science and you want to learn more, you can go to these sites where you can see some FAQs, some very current FAQs, and some very good elaborate answers, more elaborate than I can give here. So yes, you can talk on and on and on about the benefits of citizen science, at least I can. But our approach here was, as I said already, to make a distinction between what happens on the level of a project and on the people who are actually engaged in a project, but also about the possible impact that projects can have in a broader sense. So what is the impact of their scientific merit? What is the impact of their societal and social merit? And there are plenty. So please read this chapter and be convinced of the benefits of citizen science. And last but not least, I was told by the organizers of this webinar that an interesting question could be whether citizen science can be applied in all fields of research, all disciplines. And the answer is very firmly yes. The examples listed here are, there are a lot of Belgian ones, but of course, if you go to EU citizen science, you can find plenty more in all branches and fields of research. So now that you're convinced that, citizen science can happen in every field of research, I do think it's important to think about whether it is right for your research, because that's not necessarily so. So it does not fit for all research topics, and in certain circumstances, more conventional science methods or types of public engagement mechanisms might just do the trick and might be better suited. So before you initiate a citizen science project, you should reflect on whether it is suitable for your research. And this module provides some reflective questions and frameworks to help you make this decision. So it's an extensive module, and I'm sorry that I can't go into each part separately, but I'm conscious of your time and my time. But we try to define aspects of citizen science, characteristics of citizen science, things you have to think about in citizen science, that are so typical of citizen science, I cannot describe it in another way, that you need to take into account, that you need to think about, but might also be reasons to really convince you of the fact that citizen science is exactly right. You see them listed there. I will go into a few, but like, for example, we just start with the readiness level for researchers. We offer some reflective questions, even a test that you can take online, like the little quizzes in women's magazines that you can indicate your level of readiness towards public engagement. And then we indicate what engagement might be so useful and important for, reasons to why this engagement is crucial for your project. But we also talk about, of course, how complex your data protocol is. Is it too complex for the audience that you have in mind? Is your personal motivation for citizen science also there, and you really want to promote scientific learning, and you want to work with schools or other educational settings? Do you have a lot of data that need to be analyzed? Of course, citizen science is a good research method for that, and so on and so on. So this is a framework that we offer to really make people aware of what comes along when you practice citizen science, that are really good advantages, determine whether it's a good approach, but also things you have to question yourself. Is the answer yes or no? And in that case, what should I decide regarding whether I should use citizen science or another research method? And then we also thought it was useful to present a couple of frameworks, and the ones you see listed here are only two of plenty more that are out there, but just a framework for determining whether what type of citizen science projects that you're engaged in. And to think about this and to be aware of this might deliver some extra insights or some extra ideas or good practices that you can look up, or good examples that help you in your own project. So then we are at our third module. So hopefully we have determined that citizen science is the right approach for your research, but then it's good to know what you should really, really keep in mind from the start, even from before the start, when you engage in citizen science projects. So we have selected a few. Maybe you disagree on the ones we chose, or you have additional suggestions. Feel free to engage in discussion in the Q&A. But this module presents crucial design factors for planning and developing your citizen science research project. Of course, the definition of what successful citizen science is always very context specific, and will be in line with the objectives and the goals of your research. So this list of design factors is not exhaustive, but again, we do feel these are important ones. So we take the reader along in convincing them that communication is really a vital aspect of citizen science, and there's a two-way dialogue that needs to be set up in which researchers and their target audiences share values as interaction, providing feedback, sharing knowledge, mutual learning, and that they're put up front. So we discussed this in our starter kit, and we also refer to a template that we have developed to build your communication and engagement plan. So to support you in thinking about how to install this communication and feedback culture in your citizen science project. And linked to that is but we still split it up, is to think about beforehand, but also monitor your reasons that people engage in your project, what their main motivation is to contribute to your project. And it's important to monitor these motivations and the participation rates so you can adjust your communication and engagement plan accordingly. And it's good to know that motivations can be very diverse. So in this little chapter, we talk about these different motivations and ways you can meet these motivations and keep your audiences engaged. Then last but not least, there's still one to last. Of course, data quality is important in all kinds of scientific projects, research projects. It's not unique for citizen science, but, and this is also an item that was suggested to me as a point of discussion in the Q&A, there is sometimes still a certain distrust out there and a skepticism towards citizen-generated data. But thanks to these mechanisms, you can really provide very high quality data through citizen science that are similar or even better to more conventional methods. And this is always thanks to a well-designed protocol and a quality insurance mechanism that you put in place. Again, this chapter gives some good examples and some good resources of these these mechanisms and these tools. We have listed, like, and probably if you're working at a university or a research institution, you also have people working in similar offices, having similar positions. Please know that they can help you out. And the starter kit, again, also has some tools available to help you develop your data collection protocol to ensure your data quality. And then, last but not least, it might be good to think about and define the technological requirements for your research project. And this can be a challenging task because it depends on budgets, again, on the data protocol, but also on the project goals. There's sustainability aspects involved. And in this chapter, we recommend and give some examples to use existing open source platforms and tools. There are many solutions already available which offer data collection and analysis options, as you might already be familiar with Zooniverse, for example. But there are also existing air monitors, pollution monitors, and so forth and so forth. So we introduce them in this chapter. We're almost there. But as I said, we had these first 3 modules, and because we had to deliver these, as you know, in these European projects, you have a deadline, and we delivered them within the deadline. This was our nice deliverable, the Citizen Science Starter Kit. It wasn't Zenodo. But then we had some extra time and resources available to think about expanding our starter kit. And we were thinking, like, yes, now we have the main information that people or researchers need to have, but how will they actually be able to use it in a project, in a citizen science project? Couldn't we think about ways that we put the theory from the first 3 modules into practice? And that is how we came to develop the 4th module, which is less content dense and is also therefore not spreading over many pages, but is really aimed at guiding you as a researcher or as a professional through the phases of a citizen science project, which you see listed here. So it's really an interactive module, and it helps you to design your project. And we offer templates, some guidelines, overviews, lists, and checklists. A certain part of which we developed ourselves, but of course, again, there's an expression in Dutch, like, you don't have to reinvent hot water. If there's already good resources, templates, really usable tools out there, so we looked them up and we added them. So these are also out there. So in what follows, in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to show you these checklists and templates and tools that we listed and developed. And they're listed with, like, also, again, a very graphically recognizable layout. So tool this, tool that, but of course we do provide some extra content to guide you through these phases. And as you see listed here, we have distinguished 6 phases throughout the citizen science project. And then we go over what are the main things that you need to do. So what you need to think about was in the first 3 modules. And now we transfer them to, okay, what you need to do is to think about them. How? Use this tool, use this tool. You need to make a communication and engagement plan. Use this tool, and so forth. So in each phase, we distinguish some tasks that you need to think about. We explain a bit further what you need to do, and then we refer you to a tool to do this. But please be aware that we have continued the idea of these 3 types of boxes in this module as well. So still, additionally to the tools and checklists and templates that we provide, you will find case studies, reading tips, additional resources there as well. Please know that all these templates are also available on Zenodo. So you have the toolkit as a separate Zenodo item, but when you click on the links in the toolkits, they will refer you to the right tool on Zenodo as well. But please know there are already also good other tools out there, like the ones with Citizen Science Zurich, for example. So in the first phase, you need to considering your thinking about a citizen science project. So you need to identify your research question, for which we have listed 3 useful tools that can help you. We have developed a template ourselves, but there's also a template by Nesta, and by the Cities Health project has also included this phase in their toolkit. And then once you've identified your research question, again, we have this question that you have to determine if citizen science is right for your research. So we have an assessment and supporting doc with guiding questions. And we have included the decision-making framework that was included in the guide by Pocock in 2014. And there we have the test I referenced to, so you can click on the link and fill in some questions online, and then we will identify you as a citizen science enthusiast, a doubter, or a skepticist. And also there, for our own VUB colleagues, we have developed quality criteria for citizen science projects at the university. So researchers who want to align their ideas with these quality criteria can find them there. Then once you have considered citizen science, you have to start to prepare your project. So it's in for example, the project writing stage. So of course, define your project objectives. What is it exactly that you want to do, that you want to achieve? So therefore, we have developed 2 templates, the 6th and the 7th one. And then you have to think about who is in your project team to perform which tasks. And maybe you don't have all the expertise that is necessary in your direct professional environment. So think about people that can, partners that can provide additional expertise, or partners which opinions should be taken into account, all kinds of stakeholders, citizen groups, industry, whatever. You need to map your stakeholders, who has something to gain or to add regarding your topic, who should be involved, map these by using our 3-step guide. And then, of course, if you work with, ethics are always important in research, but if you work with non-professional academics, please consider privacy and ethics. So we have an ethical considerations checklist that is based on the action toolkit and on the research ethics protocol of the Social Bee project. And then again, we have a guide for how to deal with the citizen-generated data. And then you have the develop phase, of course. And we have, it's not an exhaustive overview, but we have a long list of the main currently available citizen science platforms, mobile applications, sensors, open data repositories. It's all there, all tools that you can use for your citizen science project. Then we have a template to put your data ideas into practice, and a template to design your protocol for your for the citizens or the participants that you engage. And there, what I talked about earlier, are some templates that help you think about these motivations of the people you engage and how you're going to keep them engaged and how you're going to communicate with them. And last but not least, also a checklist that can make sure that you keep inclusivity and diversity and equality in mind through all phases. Then you're going to launch your project. And the 18th tool is, again, because we are in this context, is directed to the situation at VUB, but it might spark some ideas with other audiences as well about how you can promote and publicize your project and maybe look for additional services within your institution. And then as the project is running, we have developed a template that can make you reconsider how you engage your audiences, your target audiences on the long term. And again, a template to make sure that you receive data in a way that is guaranteeing the quality and that can provide feedback. Then the one to last phase is, okay, we've gathered the data, now we have to analyze them. And again, we refer to the tools that are already available for this task. But then there are a lot of tools out there, again, to analyze and report your data. But then you are going to want to share and publish your data. And there's an open science starter guide available to make you think about applying open science principles. And last but not least, tool 22 to 24 are very, very, very good frameworks and instruments that are already out there to map your impact and make it tangible and visible, and put it into a story or a report or an overview. So please use them. They're very, very good and can help you maybe build a second part or a second project following your current project. Because that's also an important phase, of course, to sustain your project. How do we make sure that that the effects of our projects are really tangible in the long run, can maybe initiate new initiatives, new activities and projects, and how you're going to valorize your research for society? That's what we developed the last tool for. So I've been talking for a very long time. So now we turn to you, to the Q&A session. I see that there's only 2 questions in the Q&A box. One that is already answered, but of course the slides and all the information will be made available. Hi, Christina, I remember you. And then the second question, I'm going to read aloud, if I may. This is from a colleague who's involved in measuring air quality with DIY sensors. And the main question is whether, if you work with DIY low quality sensors, whether the work can be trusted and taken as a university study. Well, I think, I mean, as I'm not aware of all the aspects in the specific context you're working in, I cannot say yes or no bluntly, but I think that the fact that you're using DIY low quality sensor doesn't necessarily mean that your data collection protocol and your your mechanisms of collecting and analyzing your data can be very good. So I wouldn't say that just because the sensors are lower quality that there aren't ways to, like, sorry, I'm not finding the word in English, to make up for it, or to put this back into balance with a very good data protocol, or with other I'm sorry, it's the hay fever. It breaks my English. There are other things you can do to tackle this lower quality question. And I think, of course, you're talking as a researcher, but I'm not sure whether, if you talk about your work, you can also, again, maybe also include your citizen science experience as a valuable contribution to your field of study, if you get what I mean. So that in itself is also already very valuable. These are some first things that come to mind. If I think about anything else, I will make sure to that it's sent to you in the email that will follow. I'm just going to have a little drink. I'm sorry. And then Katerina, again, if I may, I'm going to read out loud. She says, I'm considering applying citizen science. I haven't done it so far. And you want to work with a mix of narrative and quality data from participative artistic workshop and citizen science methodology. Did you ever hear of something like that? So the question is about a project that mixes citizen science methodology with other methodologies, I assume. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I have not yet heard of something like this, but I must really stress that although I try to learn as much about citizen science as I still can, and we have a very broad eye on the European landscape, there are people who are much more experienced and have much more knowledge on what projects are actually out there. So my answer to you right now is no, but really go look at platforms such as EU Citizen Science, SciStarter. In Flanders, we have Iedereen Wetenschappers, there's Österreich. There are plenty of platforms out there that lists citizen science projects that might have a similar approach. But I wouldn't exclude the possibility to combining the two at all. I think it's a very good idea, actually. Will you be open for translations of the starter kit into other languages of the EUTOPIA member states? Yes, we do. We haven't currently done this, and it's, as you might expect, a budget thing, but we are certainly open to it. There's also people who have already asked this. So yes, it's certainly a possibility, so you can contact me. Then the next question is, do you have specific criteria or definition for citizens? So you mean, and excuse the word if it offends you, but non-academic participants, I suppose. Well, it depends, of course, of the project, I think. It can range from children to elderly people, from wherever you live, to what kind of profession you have, where your family comes from, how big your garden is. So for each project in particular, there will be specific criteria or a definition for the people you engage with. And the starter kit also helps you to make this profile as specific as possible, and also makes you think about, I probably have more than one target audience, and that doesn't mean that they all have to perform different tasks, but there might be different groups of people that can contribute in a very meaningful and relevant way to your research. So yes, that's my very extensive answer. You say, for example, temporary residents like students. Yes, of course, they can absolutely engage in citizen science. Please kick me in the shins, Francesca, if I'm not keeping track of time very well, or if I'm reading over questions.
Don't have time.
Okay, great. Davor has some questions. How much responses can be expected from citizens, and how much effort needs to be put into the dissemination and attracting citizens? Do they normally need someone to speak to get some feedback regarding the research? It's a very good question. Well, yesterday I talked with a researcher who said, like, actually, I only need 25 people or families involved, but they need to be involved over a very long period of time. So that's a feasible amount of responses, let's say, or amount of measuring stations, but they need to be engaged over a longer amount of time. Like, for example, on the other hand, you have the ISALA project, which has won the EU Prize for Citizen Science last year. And I attended a talk where the main researcher said, like, yeah, when we started, we were saying to our colleagues, like, we hope we will get 100 responses at the least. Let's hope so. If I'm not mistaken, they had 600 responses in a few hours. So a lot depends, of course, I think, on your topic, whether it is quite specific or whether it is something that resonates with a lot of people because it's connected to very issues that are very much alive in society, and how much effort needs to be put in dissemination and attracting citizens. Well, again, it depends, but you can never overestimate not the effort, but the dedication. Effort is a bit of a discouraging term, maybe. But again, you need to be prepared for the fact that citizens will appreciate someone to speak to, or maybe a forum where they can exchange with other citizens and to get some feedback regarding the research, which might encourage them to stay engaged because they learn a lot. So again, you can use the tools that we provide to make a dissemination and communication plan, a communication and engagement plan. And if you have a good plan and you know who needs to be involved, who can help you, it needs dedication. But if you have a good plan, the effort can be dispersed and can be manageable. Apart from this toolkit, are there any courses for communication specialists interested in working in citizen science projects? I cannot think of a current one in the near future on top of my head, but personally, we keep a calendar on our website for researchers, and I regularly check the event calendar on the EXA website, on the SciStarter website. If you're in their mailing lists, you are very well informed about what EXA is doing, but also what about all the members are doing in their own institutions. So I can't help you at the moment, but if you subscribe to these newsletters and check their calendar, I'm sure you will be well informed. And then Miriam asks, how about capturing the contribution from citizens? Would you recommend any methodologies to keep track of the citizens' input to the project they contribute to? I'm not sure whether I understand if you mean something different than, well, let's say the data that they contribute, that you can gather in a very manageable and oversightful way. Contribution from citizens. Yeah. Maybe context info. You mean information, like anonymized information about the people you're working with? Besides actual, yes. Well, there are ways to have, like, for example, some data that allow you to make reports about the people that have been engaged in your project. A very obvious one is like to do a survey beforehand. Like, for example, I think it's the action toolkit, which we refer to in our starter kit, that provides some frameworks for this, like very good examples of questionnaires that help you to map their background, but for example, also what they've learned themselves, what they think the added value of the project is, the merit of the project. So there's, yes, I'm speaking from a media and film studies point of view, so qualitative info are always a trophy. Yes, I understand. In a methodological kind of way, I cannot put some things on the table. But there, in our starter kit, we refer to many very good toolkits and templates and questionnaires that are already out there that really allow you to have a good profile of the people you work with. Also, that suggest actions that you can take to put them in the spotlights, for example, if they agree to do something with their contributions and so forth. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. We're almost running out of time. Yes, a little bit more. Eh? Do you know of any citizen science projects in which the data collection completely failed? It would be interesting to read about those failures to learn about where things can go wrong. Yes, your remark, I have heard something almost 100% similar in another event that I was like, yes, it's very good to hear about success stories and good practices and expiring examples, but there's equally much to learn and maybe even more from projects that failed. I do know about a project that didn't completely fail, but was in which the researchers were a bit disappointed. I'm not going to name the project, wouldn't be very nice of me. But yeah, it would be a good idea, for example, to organize like, there's a term for it that I can't remember right now, but like share your failure kind of peer learning sessions. In this case, the data collection failed because the kits that the researchers had provided was mainly spread in schools and like youth work and nature organizations, nature preserving organizations that work with young people. So the idea of how to reach the target audience was quite good. They had a lot of connections, but afterwards it appeared that the kit itself was still a little bit too complicated, and that it was sometimes hard for people to work with it. And they didn't have like a feedback system where people can ask questions and are quickly helped along. So if they couldn't use it and they didn't understand how to use it, there was no solution for it. So they didn't have a backup plan, or they didn't have an FAQ on their website or a feedback mechanism. So citizen science can work in gathering a lot of data in a large spatial area. But you need to make sure that your data collection protocol is very clear and accessible. Science communication experts can also help you with this, can translate it to something that is really accessible and easily to understand to a wider audience. That's one thing. And again, like we discussed previously in the other question, even if you don't have the resources to have an actual person answering emails every time, you can start gathering questions that you have and put like an FAQ page on your website, or just rework your data protocol. Or there are ways to counter this or to handle this, I guess. So very good questions. If I think about any, I will going to go through them afterwards. If I think of anything else that I want to add, I will contact the persons if possible, or put it somewhere accessible. Very good questions. I hope the answers were, however, all over the place, helpful. So Francesca, if you are okay with it, maybe we can transfer to the last slide that I had prepared. Are you okay with that?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yes. So I hope this little webinar about our starter kit, for which I would like to thank Francesca and Enrico for the opportunity to present it. I hope it has inspired you and has encouraged you to engage in citizen science. Of course, in an hour, I haven't been able to discuss everything that is in the starter kit, but it's out there. Feel free to explore it. Feel free to contact us if you still have additional questions or remarks. We are maybe thinking about a third version, who knows? So any suggestions are always welcome. But to guide you along the way, I have listed some resources, some support platforms or institutes, funding ideas in my last slide. I know there are quite some people here are already familiar with citizen science, so some of these examples might not be new to you. But as I said, there are a lot of platforms out there in Europe, but also in the USA and further, that list resources and inspiring examples. I use them on a weekly basis. You find a lot of good examples of projects there, but you can also find colleagues there who you might be interested to exchange with or work with, tools, Moodles, MOOCs, and so on. And as you might be aware as well, you have national and continent-wide support organizations and institutes. EXA is, of course, quite known in the context that we're talking in today, but also on the national level, we are, for example, in Flanders, very lucky to have Civil, the Flemish Expertise Center, but there are a lot of expertise centers out there as well, sometimes connected to universities, embedded in universities, sometimes linked to other institutes, but they're out there and they very often offer support or peer learning opportunities, networking opportunities. For example, I know Citizen Science Italia has recently been launched. And regarding funding, also again, the things I listed there are not, wow, this is completely new to me. But the starter kit lists some tips about thinking about and finding additional financial resources where you might not have thought about or might not have expected to find them. So these tips are in the starter kit. And as you might remember, we had a EUTOPIA Train webinar about finding successful strategies for applying for citizen science funding, which is online. Maybe there are some funding opportunities in EUTOPIA in the future. And two projects that I'm currently aware of, maybe you know more, that provides a sort of cascading grants is the Impetus project, which is about supporting beginning projects, exploratory tryouts to maybe build a bigger project upon. And Science Does is about upscaling citizen science projects. If you're already running one and you would like to upscale it, maybe on a European level, look into their program. And last but not least, a portal that I find to be very useful is the Vera portal. You can click some filters there and you can find all the current main important funding opportunities on the European level there. But for example, also like on national level, the Volkswagen Foundation in Germany, for example, I saw that they had a funding opportunity for participatory research. I think it's a year ago now, I'm not sure. So I've rambled on and on and on. You will receive everything. And I really would like to thank you for your attention, for your insightful questions. I'm inspired again. So good luck.
Great. Thank you so much, Floor. And once again, thank you everybody for joining us today. Have a lovely weekend.